had a picture of the OxyContin I was prescribed, and under it said hillbilly heroin. And I was like, oh, fuck. They were still making the 160 milligram oxy.
Yes.
You don't even hear about those. Like, so this is...
They talk about 80s.
Yeah, this is real early. Fentanyl lollipops, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't know what they were. I had been getting some from this girl who was on like a trial for them.
Wow.
She had MS, so they were trying to figure out if they should release them to the general public. So she's like, oh yeah, they're like Vicodin, $3, have some. When they were prescribing me, like it was, a significant amount, and I became dependent on it pretty quick. This is like months after the head injury, and I'm like, I'm just not right. You know what I mean? I'm not well.
So then, damn, okay. That's an early. That's when it started. Like, that's when it started to first come out. Like that. See, for me, I was kind of. I wouldn't say I was late, but like I was on the verge of like the end of Oxy and the start of fentanyl.
Yeah.
There came a time where it was like, I remember I would study each one. Like it was like a huge bag of them, and then but I'd empty them out and I'd separate them into like the A215s or the check marks and I'd have them all separate, and then I'd look at each one and be like, man, I don't know. These
I missed that. Like I didn't see any of that.
Yeah. So then that's where I was at. But so then you were getting like the legit
early.
Yeah.
Early. Like it wasn't even on the street yet at first, you know what I mean? And then it hit the street and I was getting prescribed it. But yeah, this is early. Like, yeah, and it was quick. You know what I'm saying? Like I went from, being like a people-y person to like I was somebody people didn't want to fuck.
So here we are. Color Studios.
What's
Aiden,
up?
what's up?
Yep.
We have our guest for episode 19 here. Patrick, how are you, man? Welcome to Sober Champs.
Yeah.
Welcome downtown.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
How are you doing today, man? What's up?
I'm good, and I appreciate what you said. I had an office down here for a long time, and like this is a vibrant part of the city, and an essential part of the city. And I got a lot of history in this part of the city, so let's keep it safe. And God bless the dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, like you said, there's a lot of history down here, and we've taken pride in having this podcast down here, and I have a lot of history down here. I think Aiden, did you ever party down here?
No.
No.
I wasn't in the square.
I remember seeing the Beat Junkies down here in like 1994, maybe 95. You know what I mean? There was a little club that used to be one of the only clubs that did hip hop in the city of Seattle. So we would catch the bus out there. You know what I mean? And it was dope. A long time ago.
Yeah, man. I always wondered what. Anyway, we could go into the history of this place for a while. So, what brings you to Sober Champs, man? Like. Usually we start out with your sober date.
Yep.
What's your sober date, man?
August 1st, 2013. And what brings me to Sober Champs is you asked me to come to Sober Champs. And I love you guys. So I said, okay, let's do Sober Champs. And truthfully, man, I don't, like I have been asked to do podcasts in the past because of my professional job, and I just have said no. Like, I'll send people that work at the organization I work at. Like, I'd much rather build the stage and stand on the stage, and that's kind of been my thing. So when you hit me up, it's like I'm challenging myself to come out and tell my story a little more, and then, like I said, you're my guy. So it's like, how can we support? Let's build. So I'm honored to be here.
I appreciate that, man.
And also, these two have you come at 8 p.m. And for me, like that's like bedtime. You know what I'm saying? So it's really all love to me right now. I'm usually putting my 7-year-old down right about now and picking up like a sci-fi novel, you know what I'm saying? Laying in bed. So it's good. It's good.
Oh, that's what's up, man.
Good to be seen.
Well, we are glad you are here. We know it's late. You know what's crazy is like I set up these times because I know that a lot of us have children. I have a 7-year-old myself, and like he was going to bed as I was leaving this evening. We're on a pretty tight regimen, getting him like 7:30 p.m. and then he's going. And so it's exciting that I mean, I went to my sleep doctor today, and I wear a CPAP machine.
So do I.
And so
we have to talk about that, like not on air, but like I'm trying to get used to it.
Oh yeah,
and I just got a therapist, and we're officially old as fuck.
Hey, look, I was gonna say, if you're young at this point and you're skipping over this podcast, we apologize. But Aiden's here; he can attest that it's gonna be all right. So, but he had all the data from my CPAP machine, and he was like, "Man, bro, it looks like you're using it every day, but for about 4 or 5 hours." And I was like, "Well, there you go."
I can't get past 2 hours, and I rip it off, you know what I'm saying? And then I don't know I'm ripping it off of my face. You know what I'm saying? But I was, So,
and they start snoring, and your wife's like, "Hey, excuse me."
I mean, it's not even that. It's I don't get a good night's sleep. You know what I mean? And me and my wife just had a little girl, that's 8 months old. So it's like it's the compound thing. So, I'm just trying to get my sleep dialed in. It's like the final frontier of, the work we do is we become older, and we're very blessed to become older. You know what I'm saying? Diet, sleep, like all the things, right?
Yeah. CPAP. Shout out to CPAP. It's the best thing that ever happened to my sleep, by the way. But
if I get used to mine, I hope to be able to.
Hey, we'll talk about it later. So, where'd you grow up? we got to. Hey, look, but see, hold on. Tell them about you got to go get tested for the sleep. Come on, man.
Yeah. I don't have the best sleep. Luckily, though, I've been doing some extra stuff, and it's been helping with my sleep. But I think I might be next in line for the CPAP.
I would say this like from like 1998 to like 2013, I didn't fall asleep. I passed the fuck out. You know what I mean? Like I fell asleep when it was done, and then I would sleep for sometimes days, sometimes hours, sometimes not at all. You know what I mean? So I think that, like, for me, it's been a journey in recovery, like figuring out what healthy sleep looks like. And there's times I have healthy sleep, but like these are like the latent repercussions of like long-term drug use. Like that's what it looks like in alcoholism. Yeah. And the altitude at which I like to fly, like if you can understand the words coming out of my mouth, like I'm missing the mark. You know what I'm saying? I want to be sleeping while I'm moving anyway. So it's just been part of the process. Okay, so yes, where I grew up on the east side. So I grew up,
this is new. What part of the east side are you from?
So
did you grow up in Seattle's east side or
no? So check this out.
This is like the fifth fucking cat.
So look, 1984. So I was born in Juneau, and then we moved to Idaho. My parents are from Idaho.
Okay.
And then we moved to Seattle in 84, 85, and my dad had a job in Seattle. So like in 84 and 85, the east side was less expensive than Seattle.
Right.
Like they were trying to find a spot in Seattle, and they couldn't find a spot in Seattle. So we moved to, it's called Rose Hill. It's like the top of the hill between like Redmond and Kirkland.
Yeah. Okay.
And it was dope.
Yeah, he knows.
Yeah, it was dope. I loved it out there. It's different now. But when in the 80s, bro, like it was like horse trails. You know what I'm saying? Like where we used to drink 40s at, I remember being like 14, like going back to where we drink our 40s, you know what I mean? And there's a big ass chain link fence, and we're like, what the fuck? And it says, coming soon, Microsoft. And we're like, what the fuck is a Microsoft? All of a sudden, bow, 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 bow. There's like 40 Microsoft buildings, you know what I mean? But watching that develop over time. So I grew up there, and then I moved when I was like 13. I got kicked out of the Lake Washington School District, and my parents, we moved to Bellevue, and I grew up on Crossroads. So I was like 19 years old.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you go to high school around there?
I went to like almost every high school you could probably go to on the east side, but truthfully, and this is it's just part of what like addiction looks like, you know what I mean? And substance use disorder. Like the last full grade I completed was the 7th grade. That was the last full grade, and then I would go back like periodically, and not always for like the best reasons, you know what I mean? So Interlake, Sammamish, Lake Washington High School. I think I touched down at Bellevue for a hot second. Bellevue off campus. There was a school in Seattle that took like not just the Seattle kids that were kind of hard to teach, but also the East Side kids. It was called West Side Academy in the like early. In the mid to late 90s, I enrolled there and didn't go. So I was kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, so by you hopping around like that, I'm guessing that substance use was in full effect, or at least at
an early age. Yeah. And I mean, I think it started, elementary, like late elementary, was when I started drinking, smoking weed, you know what I mean? And I think what, like, probably people don't understand is, like, if you're not an addict or alcoholic, like, I had a lot of fun. You know what I mean? Like, it was dope. Like, I really gave myself to the process. You know, like, I was, I would go to school, maybe even in 7th grade, and after school, I'd catch the bus to the U District. You know what I mean? It was like let's get 20 sack, let's, like, do that. I mean, that was just kind of what my middle school looked like. So that was, like, early and often. And, I think, so the 80s, like, I was diagnosed with attention deficit disorder, and, like, it's weird, like, most of my people were too, and we all kind of congregated together, but I don't think the schools fully knew how to, at the time, like, it was a new thing, right? And like, I remember them putting me in, like, study skills for 7 periods a day. So I had nothing to study. I'm just in study skills. Like, you're gonna study, but you ain't got nothing to study. Or, there were like, hallways with, like, dead ends. It's like you put your desk there type shit. So, and it's not all the school isn't entirely responsible for that. Like, I just wasn't abiding by the rules. I was kind of doing my own thing. And that's, what early school looked like. I will say, though, like, my saving grace is I read a lot. Like, even during that time, you know what I'm saying? I just cut class and go read.
What did you like to read at the time?
When I was a kid, like S.C. Hinton books, like The Outsiders, you know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. As I got older, I mentioned sci-fi novels. I've read, a great deal. You name it, I probably went through, like, a phase on it. Biographies, you know what I'm saying? Like, all that. Like, even at a real young age. Like, I'd be the cat. Even in late addiction, like, I'd nod out in a book. Like, that was...
So with so with ADD, though, or ADHD, were you able to, like... I always had a problem, like, when I was reading, like, I'd get like a quarter or even halfway down the page, and then I'd be out here thinking about some other stuff.
I think there's some of that. Like, it kind of just depends, like, what your thing is to hyper focus on.
Yeah.
My wife has, like, real severe ADHD, and I think it's all one diagnosis now. But back when I was a kid, like, I was diagnosed with ADD, not the hyperactivity thing.
Right.
I was just, I was all over the place, but kind of calmly all over the place. You know what I mean?
Me too.
She hyper focuses on work. Like, she's a pro. She's an interior designer and a real estate agent. And I watch her. Like, when we get IKEA furniture, bro, I'm like, yo, go hyper focus on this real quick. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm gonna be in the other room.
You like slide it in there.
I'm like,
hey, look at this.
I'm like, use your superpower, please. So reading has always been kind of the escape. I remember when I was in treatment, man. Like, they thought I was a chronic masturbator. Like, this is actually funny because I snuck a Kindle in, and, like, every time like, one of the people that worked at the treatment center would come in, hands, you know what I'm saying, under the bed, because I was hiding my Kindle, and they found out, like, I was reading, and I was just reading, like, the entire time in there, I was, like, reading these books, and they're like, yo, you have to, like, stop, like, checking out through reading. I mean, it's whatever. That was just kind of my thing. So,
yeah.
I mean, even now, it's something I do. So I think that was a saving grace, though. One of the saving graces.
Did you have to take medicine for ADD?
Yeah, well, they prescribed me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Ritalin back in the day.
Yeah.
They have different medications now that they use. Because again, like, we were, like, I think mid '80s, we were, like, the first generation that was getting diagnosed with that.
Oh yeah.
So all that was happening, and then me and my homies kind of doing what we're doing, and. Even though we were on the east side, like, a lot of my friends I grew up with are, like, dead or in prison. You know what I mean? And I don't know what it was, but like, speaking of The Outsiders, right? It's a fantastic book, but it was like the socialists and the jocks, and, like, even in the 50s when that was written, it was like those kids kind of congregate together. And what's interesting about the east side is, like, we grew up in, like, apartments. I had friends in Section 8 housing out there, but then you got the kids with money out there too. So there was kind of a juxtaposition often out there. You know what I mean? Like there is here as well, I suppose.
Yeah.
So it's not all that surprising.
Yeah, I mean, that's for me. The assumption was that was not the case. I've had a few guests now. We've had a few guests on that like clarify, like, yeah, Pete, like it wasn't everybody had money.
No,
and that was, being a young man here. That was just my experience going over there. Were like a couple parties, or you cats that made it over, man, and like you'd be in these houses and you'd be like,
it's insane. Well, it's referred to as the Gold Coast, though.
Yeah.
Like that area from like Yarrow Point, Medina, all that stuff. Like that is anywhere near the water out there.
You said the Gold Coast.
That's what they call it. Yeah, the Gold Coast.
Wow, that's what's up. That's some lingo.
Gates, you know what I mean? All the CFOs, like, they all stay out there. But yeah, that's where I grew up. And I've lived everywhere, you know what I mean? I've lived in Kent. I lived in Genesee Park for a while. I got sober and like right off Aurora, you know what I mean? So that was the adolescence.
Yeah, so what took you, when did it stop being fun?
Oh man, that's a great question. I think I probably knew I had a problem pretty early, you know what I mean? But the difference I think between like now and then though is like there was no fentanyl, there was no OxyContin.
Thank God.
Thank God. And it took you a little bit longer, sometimes decades to hit your bottom, you know what I mean? But I was like aware, like at one point I wanted to probably go to college, you know what I'm saying? Or like do something with my life. So it was like, oh shit, I'm kind of fucking off any opportunity I might want to take advantage of. And that went for like football, like the stuff I enjoy doing, I just stopped doing it, you know what I mean? So I think I knew, but when it really became evident was when I had a head injury. Like violence is kind of a big part of my story, and like in there was one particular episode where my skull got fractured, and I still like I can't breathe through my left nostril, and my eye socket's broken, my jaw's broken. But I was prescribed OxyContin in like 1999, so that was like real fast. You know what I mean? It's pretty obvious. I remember, I think by that time, like I had quit smoking weed. I was still drinking. I was doing stuff like kind of alcoholically still, but I was like I want to get back into school and I want to like kind of figure some shit out. So I was like 18, and that happened around that time, and you know, having significant head trauma is like real scary. Like I'm always like my heart goes out to people that have had significant head trauma. So like for immediately after, for like a few years, so like I was quick to anger, quick to impulse, quick to anxiety, quick to depression. I remember walking in stores and my hands would go numb. You know what I mean? I forget where I was at. During this time, like I'm taking a lot of oxys too, and I didn't know what they were. I had been getting some from this girl who was on like a trial for them.
Wow.
She had MS, so they were trying to figure out if they should release them to the general public. Clearly they made the wrong decision, right? But so she's like, oh yeah, they're like Vicodin, you know, $3, have some. So we were working in a burger restaurant and getting them every once in a while. But when they were prescribed to me, like it was, you know, a significant amount, and I became dependent on it pretty quick. But I remember walking into a 7-Eleven, and this is like months after the head injury, and I'm like, and I'm just not right, you know what I mean? I'm not well. From the repercussions of the head trauma and also from the drugs, but I didn't know that at the time. But I see a Time magazine, and it had a picture of the OxyContin I was prescribed, and under it said hillbilly heroin. And I was like, oh, fuck, you know what I'm saying? And that was when it really probably became evident that, you know, I had an issue, and I'm just gonna have to look at it. Yeah.
So then, damn, okay. That's an early, that's when it started, like, that's when it started to first come out. Like that see, for me, I was kind of, I wouldn't say I was late, but like I was on the verge of like the end of Oxy and the start of fentanyl.
Yeah.
The end of Oxy and the fake pill press.
Yeah.
And so like, you know, one of my dealers would go and fly to like Vegas and get his cronies together and his they were called sponsees together, and they would all put their prescriptions together, and then he would fly it back up.
Yeah.
And there came a time where it was like, I remember I would study each one, like it was like a huge bag of them, and then I'd empty them out and I'd separate them in the A215s or the check marks and I'd have them all separate, and then I'd look at each one and be like, man, I don't know. These
I
ones,
missed that. Like, I didn't see any of that.
Yeah. So then that's where I was at. But so then you were getting like the legit
early.
Yeah.
Early. Like, it wasn't even on the street yet at first, you know what I mean? And then it hit the street and I was getting prescribed it. But yeah, this is early. Like, they were still making the 160 milligram oxys.
Yes.
You don't even hear about those. Like, so this is...
They talk about 80s.
Yeah, this is real early. Fentanyl, lollipops, you know what I mean? Like, saw all that. And it was quick, you know what I'm saying? Like, I went from, being like a people-y person to like, I was somebody people didn't want to fuck with. You know what I mean? In pretty short order.
Yeah.
And that played out in my personal relationships. That played out in my professional relationships. And it was pretty fast. You know what I'm saying? So I initially tried to quit too. Like, my homies, I think like that happened in December. And it was like 6 months later, they were at my house. Like, you gotta stop. They had like, ransacked my mom's house where I was living, took everything. We're just like, we're gonna get you right. And of course, as we know, no one can do that for you. So so I think the first time I went to treatment was like 01. And again, it was early. So like in 01, I went in.
Where'd you go to treatment?
Milo. So this is pre 9/11. Excuse me. I was the only person in there for opiates. Everybody else was in there for alcohol. So like, by the time when I finally got sober, it was like 99% of the people were in there for fucking opiates. Yeah, when I went in, I was the only cat, and I was young. Like, I was 01, so I'm like 21. And I'm 46 now, and I look young. When I was 21, I looked like I was 16. You know what I'm saying? And it didn't stick, unfortunately. And there was no like kind of young people doing it at that time. So that was real difficult for me too. Yeah. Ultimately, it was on me. I had, left AMA, I think, and all that. But yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy. I remember like when I was on fentanyl, bro. I didn't even get anything like real at all. So it's like crazy to think about like the originator kind of, and like what like brings up for me, and it kind of, I think you're kind of answering it yourself, but like when I got on fentanyl, it felt like, your circle's really small. Like, I was just smoking weed with people and kicking it. But when I got on fentanyl, I started getting around a ton of people that were on fentanyl. And it sounds like you weren't around a lot of people that were doing oxys.
I mean, there's a few of us. It's one of that is one of the things I think about. Like, we don't talk about it enough being sober. It's like, I don't have to fuck with people I don't want to fuck with anymore. I think me and you might have talked about this before. Like, it's such a beautiful thing. Because, like, to your point, being around those people, like, in my opinion, like, I didn't want to be around those people. Those like weren't my people oftentimes. It was just, I had a need and a want and a desire, so I was around those people. But yeah, the circle got small pretty fast too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you like using around other people, or were you kind of like a solo user?
So when I was young, it was fun.
Yeah.
It was 40s, it was blunts, it was DOS effects, like whatever. You know what I mean? It was just like the mid-90s. It was part of the experience. So it was always around people. But by the time like I got into the harder stuff, man, like my ideal circumstances were like towards the end, like I'm in a hotel. One, I got money for a hotel, but I'm in a hotel. I got a do not disturb sign on the door. Door's locked. I'm in the bathroom, door's locked. I got, you know what I mean? Like I'm fucking locking everything out, and I am by myself. That's absolutely right. Like that's where it took me, towards the end. Like I didn't really want to be around anyone.
Yeah, like, I can so relate. I only used with one person, like my whole use of Oxy.
Yeah.
Other than that, it was like this top secret, like adventure.
Yeah.
That I was on, where I was hiding pills places, and just like every once in a while, I just pop one and be like, yeah, here we go, or 2 or 3. Now we're on 4. But it was always this like adventure of like not getting caught.
Yeah.
And there were so many moments where people would be like, you know, hey man, are you okay? And I'd be like, I remember one time I was in my dispatch hall and we're sitting here and we're trying to get, everybody's trying to get work. And my friend, Rob, he's walking down this hallway from the A side to the B side. And I remember so vividly, like nodding off, and he stopped in the hallway.
Yeah.
And everybody's chatting and there's like, 20, 30 people in this room and I'm doing one of these just, ooh. And I wake up and he's like, and he walks up to me and he's like, hey man, what's wrong with you? And I was like, man, I'm just tired, bro. This is like exhausting in here. Just sitting around listening to all these people talk, waiting for work. This is just, and it was this like secret game. Mm-hmm. And so were you ever hiding it or was it more?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. But that's an interesting story because I think too, like it is what's wrong with you. You're falling asleep, but it's also like you're a real likable dude, right? Enigmatic. So you see that light dulled, it's startling for people. Like they're like, yo, what's going on, man? You are fucking not okay. Mm-hmm. And then, we're just tired. But yeah, I hit it. But I think the difference is like, I started like early, and so I didn't have like there was no career. There was none of that going on. So my the people I knew, my people, there was no hiding it from them. You know what I mean? They all knew I was pretty fucked up. Like I didn't have a job. I'm staying at my mom's house, and this is when I was young, or with my dad, and it just became kind of a sad story. I think like, damn, Pat had all the potential in the world. Pat used to be, that type of thing. So I just I still come around, but I wasn't even. And I probably did try to hide it a little bit, but like I don't think there was really any hiding it either. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just because of how young I was, because of how fast I kind of hit bottom after that. And not just the substance use disorder, but also like coupled with like, you got head trauma, you got all these things going on. Like I just wasn't right. And like, that's when my personal relationships started to really suffer. So like people would get restraining orders against me because I'm like wild. I'm terrorizing people, like actively terrorizing people because I don't have the emotional maturity to act within reason in relationship anymore. Like I lose that ability at some point, like pretty early on. So all that happened, and in and out of treatment, and then this is also interesting. I'm one of the first people in the state of Washington to be prescribed Suboxone. So it's 2002, and there's 3 doctors in Seattle that prescribe it. They can have 3 patients apiece, right? So I'm like, I hear about it, I call, and it's at Madison, I forget what hospital that is up there. There's a lot of them.
Swedish?
Yeah, it's Swedish.
Yeah.
And I remember I went in, they're like, you can't use. And I'm like, fuck, man. We had this great hustle. Like we were going and picking up like hundreds and hundreds of pills at a time in Oregon at the time. And so I was real sick, and I went in, and they, I'm on like a gurney, it's fucking dying, and they handed me that little orange, stop sign. Put this under your tongue, and I'm just like, bro, shut up. And then did it. I was like, wow. You know what I mean? I feel okay. So I had that experience too in like 02 or 03. I think that was probably summer of 03 that happened. And on that for, I say like a year and a half, pretty effective. You know what I mean?
On Sublocade?
So it's just Suboxone. Buprenorphine. It's the only thing out at the time, know, and I think I think the data kind of shows this too, but I want to be careful saying that because I'm not a doctor, I'm not a physician, I don't prescribe. I've got my own personal opinions on it, but like I didn't deal with any of the underlying issues. And like you could take away the drugs, but you still have like kind of the antisocial behavior that comes with the drugs, of course, for someone like myself that was pretty antisocial by that time. So I started, dabbling in other stuff and, but that was pretty early. I was on that.
So with your brain injury, like, are you like, when did you start to get? Because while using, I don't see a lot of like getting better.
Yeah, no, I mean, man, I was 19 or 20. I think I've had a lot of concussions. Like that was I got pictures that blow your mind from me being a kid, like really. like I said, I was real angry, like really angry, really scared. Like in retrospect, I can say scared. You couldn't have told me that at the time. I'm like, whatever. I think what it was is I was a very sensitive kid, right? And I got picked on quite a bit because of that. And then you get to the point when you're like 12 or so, you're just like, fuck that, I'm fighting. So it didn't kind of matter. So I was really an expert, like picking fights with people I probably shouldn't be picking fights with times, and like ending up in the hospital, stitches, concussions, all that. But that head trauma I had in '99, I think, I do think I mean, I don't know, you know what I mean? Sometimes I wonder, I'm like, if I didn't do drugs and I never got a concussion, would I be a savant? Like, I don't know the answers to that, but doubtful. And I do think, because I was so young, like I don't, the only thing, like I used to get pretty significant headaches for a long time. I get them like once a year now. The sleeping issues trace back to that though. Like I still can't breathe out of my left nostril. It's completely collapsed. You know what I mean? So there's some repercussions like that. I can't ski. Like I want to go skiing. I used to as a kid. Damn. I get really bad motion sickness. So switchbacks just like fall over and feel like I'm going to throw up from them. So I have to be really careful of like stuff like that with motion sickness. But other than that, I think I'm okay. I mean, I better be okay, right? I'm walking around like I'm okay.
Yeah.
I don't want to tell myself I'm not.
I'm okay.
Shit is good, yo.
Right. Yeah. Hey, that's what's up. So then you got a couple years in of or a few young years of using. You get the Suboxone.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of, stopping, or you said the year and a half or so, you're dabbling here and there, not necessarily full on sober.
Not full tilt.
Yeah.
Not full tilt.
Well, at this point, were you ever trying to get, like, was there like, I'm trying to get sober, and like the sober thing comes out of your chest, like, yeah, here we go.
So I went to treatment. Like I said, I was introduced to the concepts, you know what I mean? And I agreed with, like, some of them made sense to me, but I couldn't get past like a few of them, and none of it really stuck. But I was sent to back in the mid '90s, like the first 3 arrests you got as a juvenile went to diversion. So diversion would look like therapy, court ordered, counseling, court ordered. You might go to Spruce Street, was a little detention center by Alder, and I spent a lot of time in Alder as a juvenile as well. But what was the question I said again?
It was as if
the Suboxone.
Yep.
Yeah.
So like, but did you give it a shot? Like, did you give sobriety a shot?
Okay, I know where I was going with that.
Right.
So they'd send me to AA as a kid, and like in those rooms too. So like I had an awareness of like that it existed, but to me like being sober was like Suboxone and Adderall and Xanax. Like, right. You know what I mean? Right. When I actually got sober.
Right. I'm not doing Oxy and I'm not drinking and smoking.
Bro, when I actually got sober, and my wife today, when I met her, she was like, have you been sober before? I'm like, yeah, I had years. She's like, what did that look like? And I was like, it was just take some Suboxone, some Adderall, some Xanax. And she was just like, bro, get away from me.
Hey, get away. She said,
stop. But yeah, so I didn't really have any concept of what it looked like to actually do the work. And, like, just like full of shit, dog. Like, not even willing to like unpack the stories I was telling myself at that time. You know what that was like. Like you meet people, you're just like, oof, those are some heavy narratives you got going on in your head right now. And I wasn't ready for all that. So with the Suboxone on it, you know what I'm saying? I start dabbling in other stuff. Found that you could really mix Suboxone with meth really good. Like it was a nice little concoction.
Whoa, I never even heard of that before.
Yeah, it's not. I highly don't recommend doing that. But like, that's kind of what it looked like. Now I'll say this, like I was on and off Suboxone from, so I said like 2012, 2013. So when I got sober, I finally got off a few years before I got sober, but that very well may have kept me alive from those, because that last 10 years, like my obsession was to stop too. Like I did not want to live like that anymore. There was nothing appealing about it. You know what I mean? It wasn't fly. All the hopes and aspirations and dreams I had were squandered completely, just so dismantled. And then the relationships I spoke about, like people I really cared about were just terrified of me and like what I was capable of, and rightfully so. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of what it looked like for the next, about the next 10 years, without going into too much detail.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So then, here we go. What ends up happening so that you end up getting a sober date?
Yeah.
Now we get to talk about the good part.
Come on.
So
here we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I had been like wanting this thing that was completely out of reach, not knowing how to get it. I had some ideas like of what I was willing to do, so I'm 34, and like I had passed the point of like being able to convince people to help me get into treatment. You know what I mean? They're like, that's cute, but right, you're not getting sober. And the last time, I think it was like, well, I know it was in July of the one person. Shout out to E. Summers. It's like my brother. Saved my life actually multiple times, but he was like the one person that didn't give up on me. You know what I mean? And like we were staying at this house. And he ended up getting picked up on a warrant and flown on Con Air down to Arizona. So he's dealing with a case, and I'm staying at this house. And I end up like essentially overdosing in the house by myself. Well, that's not exactly true. Some people roofied me because they're trying to steal something, and I ended up taking the roofing from them and then ODing because I got good ideas. You know what I mean? And I came to, and it was dark. You know what I mean? I don't want to get into too many details, but like. It was like a horrific scene. You know what I mean? I woke up, looked at myself in the mirror, and it just unrecognizable. And it had been that way for a couple of years. Like I didn't recognize the person I was looking at. But this particular time, like I ended up doing a little bit more of what I had just to kind of wake up. And I called my dad, and my dad lives in Idaho, and I was like, "Yo, I'm gonna die. I don't really care anymore, but you probably do, And he drove out from Idaho, came and got me. The plan wasn't even treatment then. He was just coming to get me. Like, we're going to figure it out. And so he comes and gets me.
Come get my son.
Yeah. Love my dad. Love my father. He comes and gets me, scoops me up, takes me back to Idaho, right? And there's a family reunion going on.
What?
It's August, bro. It's like,
and I'm guessing you didn't get the email. It's like, oh yeah, I'm here to make this.
No email. Yeah, man. There's sometimes photos pop up on my Facebook feed. Like, I don't even know why I still have a Facebook, but like it'll pop up, and it's like those pictures, and I'm like, I look like a candle that's melting. I'm like, I'm like being stood up. Like, there's my cousin. So that happens, and then my mom, man. I love mom, love moms too. She took out, and so she worked she was a lunch lady. Like my mom was a lunch lady at the schools I went to as a kid, man. She loved me, you know what I mean? She's like, I'll be a lunch lady at your elementary, and then I'll be a lunch lady at your junior high school. And then of course I get like kicked out of junior high school, so I put them through a lot. But she took money out of her retirement to get me into treatment. And I had my mind set on going to Sundown. For whatever reason, like if I had known about the Sally, I would have done the Sally. I would have done a lot of things, but I just had my mindset on that. And she took her money out of her retirement, which it's not like a big retirement, you know what I mean? And got me into Sundown M Ranch. And I remember I was so full of shit in there. I come in there with just cash, right, from my mom. I'm like, yo, this is my money, son. You know what I mean? I'm out here like just like fronting, like I'm cashing out. So they actually scholarshiped me for half of it. And that's kind of where the journey began, you know what I mean? Me and my Kindle, like I said, I'm in there reading, and started. And then in there, like my plan was to go to California because my cousin lived in LA, and I was looking at a lot of court cases. I had warrants all over the place, right? I was under investigation for something where I was looking at some, possibly like 5 years, maybe. And I was like, okay, I'll go to California, I'll live with my cousin, and just ride it out. At some point in treatment, I made the decision to come back to Seattle and like deal with everything. And as you guys know, like the treatment's not the work; it's the pause for the work to start. So when I got out, my dad picked me up, drove me to the Nexus in Northgate, paid for one night, and said, "Good luck." You know what I mean? Because he's like, I'm 34. Like he's kind of done with it. He's just like, yo. I hope you figure this out. And then I went and I stayed at this kind of trapped out house. I was sleeping in a closet, and I had a bag with a garbage bag with some stuff in it, and I just started knocking on sober livings, trying to find a place to live. Meanwhile, this court stuff's going on too, so that's kind of where it started. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So I mean, so you stay sober throughout that? I mean, let's just talk about like you get the Nexus, you do that, you start knocking on sober living spots. But there must have been like, to me, it sounded like you were fed up. You're fed up, and you were like, "Yo, okay, so how am I gonna go ahead?"
So when I woke up on that bathroom floor, man, I remember I said a prayer. I was like, God, I'll do anything you put in front of me right now. Like, it doesn't matter what it is. Like, I'm getting out of my own way, and I'm entirely giving myself to you, whatever that looks like. So that was like the decision, right, and the conviction. And, you know, I kind of replay that at times throughout that process. I ended up getting into a sober living, like I was couched there, and somebody ended up relapsing, and I got to stay there. And then I'm showing up to court. I remember I went into court, and it was Judge Jackie, who just locks people up. She's retired now. Like, she's infamous for just locking people up, you know what I mean? And I went in there, and I'm like, I'm gonna get locked up. And I told her everything I was doing, and she didn't lock me up. She goes, Mr. Arni, I don't know what's changing you, but something, and I'm gonna let you walk today and start figuring these things out. You're gonna do back. But it was like one of those weird things. If you guys probably had this experience too when you got sober, it's like the devil comes knocking sometimes. Because like I'm talking to the judge, I turn around, and like against the back wall of the courtroom is this cat that I had been getting like real high with. He's like, yo, Pat, I got the good shit. Come meet me outside. And I'm like, bro, I'm not interested. And, you know, got the bus back to the sober living, and start kind of just dealing with that wreckage. I ended up getting, I told the court I had to go back to court. I'm like, you know, I was real dramatic. Like, nothing you sentenced to me here today will compare to the darkness and despair I've experienced over the past. You know what I mean? Like, never say that to a judge. But this judge, again, he was like, okay, we're gonna give you 6 months. 6 months in county, and then 6 months home detention. So again, it was like this gift. Like I thought I was looking at like something more significant than that. And then I went in, and I'll never forget. Like, I'm turning myself in, got the handcuffs on. This is like
right sober.
So like this all plays out over August. And I'm doing all the things consistently. Like, I'm consistently showing up to all the things I'm supposed to be showing up to, right? And Seahawks win the Super Bowl. You know what I'm saying? I get to watch it with my heart. It's like my friends I grew up with that I hadn't spent time with in a long time. Yeah. They were doing well. You know, we got to experience that together. The parade happens, and then I got to turn myself in. But I remember like feeling more free walking in there than I had my, you know, entire life right previous to that, in handcuffs. It's like, all right, let's do this. But then I got into like the intake room, and somebody's overdosing off like Xanax, and I'm like, maybe I'm not free. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, ooh. But yeah, man, I ended up helping people while I was in there. To be honest with you, like that was how that 6 months ended up playing out. Actually, it didn't even play out like that. It played out that I was such an exceptional person while I was inside that let me out after 3 months. So I got to go out again, but it was like a slow process for me. And I wish people would slow recovery sometimes, and it sounds like devious to say that, but it's true. Like if it had been given to me fast, I would have burned it to the ground. But I went from like homelessness to treatment, to homelessness, to jail, or no, to sober living, to jail, back. And then I got out and I was like homeless again. But because I've been doing those things consistently before, you know, I had to get booked. Like I kept, Mr. Arni, you got a visitor. Mr. Arni, you got a visitor. It got to the point where I was like, man, I don't want any more visitors. You know what I'm saying? Like, just let me sit in here. So I had this support, man. And I got out and got a place to live in short order, and just stayed at it. You know what I mean? Consistently, like, stayed at the work we do. And that's kind of where it all started for me. Yeah.
So by, I don't know, man. Your story is so incredible. I've never heard this. You know, we've never sat down for this part.
Yeah.
And you know, because the way I met you was through Teddy.
Yeah.
And or at least like Kenny. Yeah, Kenny.
Yeah.
That was right.
That was Kenny.
That was.
Yeah. You're my dude. As soon as you talk to him, like, I like this guy. Because
So-
you know, like like sometimes you see people you could have grown up with, and it's not always, but you're like, oh yeah, this is Yeah,
and so then when we started chopping it up, it was like, I don't know. I knew you. It felt like I knew you.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it happens where you feel like you know somebody through their story, but there was a connection there. And you know, come to find out, like where you were at that time, right? As far as professionally, family wise, things that were going on outside of your recovery. I was like, damn, man, like you're doing these amazing things coming from the like darkest of dark.
Yeah.
And so it was always something that always has intrigued me is when I find a person that's maybe a little older, around the same age as me, that has stayed sober for like more than 10 years, right? And you ask them what they're up to. And they have a list of like, well, I'm married, or I have children, and I have this career, and I have a house or 2 or 3, and I, you know, and to me, it's like a lot of times, I just want to share, like, I talked to Seth a lot about this part,
Love
which
Seth.
is
Shout out to Seth.
shout out Seth.
Shout
Seth was a couple weeks ago now.
My guy.
Yeah,
Love him dearly.
Hey, he's almost on every podcast, just spiritual.
Talked about every
I almost
podcast.
said,
That's my dude.
Yeah. So he talks about like we didn't just get sober to like hang out and be sober. We're gonna go do some stuff. We're gonna go get active in things, and that might include building a life beyond our wildest dreams. And like I just remember your story, and I was like, damn, man, like he's really not knowing that you've only completed 7th grade, you said? And okay, so now we get to go into first you got married at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really like you haven't met my wife. Like
I've never met her.
She's like a dime piece, like brilliant, you know, younger than me. You know what I mean? Like it's like I got no business being with the woman I'm with. Like she's the best.
Yeah.
Yeah. And comes from the best family. Like my father-in-law is the dean of chemical engineering at the University of Washington. My mother-in-law is like a PhD in plant genetics. It's just wild, bro. It's wild.
And you got some kids.
Got 2 little girls.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Like,
What's the ages of them again?
7 and 8 months.
Okay.
So I'm a little tired. You know what I'm saying?
We're rolling right along. Perfect timing.
No, it's perfect like that. I mean, like so at my professional job, you know what I mean. I have to speak often, and like I'll often introduce myself. Like I'll be like, I represent the population of people I serve. You know, at one point I was cycling in and out of institutions. I was homeless. I was an IV drug user. I stand before you today, and I'm an executive director. I'm a father. I'm a homeowner. I'm a community builder. And we're gonna have a conversation about what that looks like. So it's a great segue into like what we're talking about. I will say, the first 4 years I was sober, I was absolutely terrified about what I was gonna do professionally. I had no idea. On paper, you know, I'm not exactly the dude that somebody would wanna hire. Even me, I remember the first time I met my father-in-law. Like I'm not the first choice, you know. I would guess, you know. And he's been, you know what I mean.
I do know what you mean.
He's been nothing but kind. I think it was kind of like a growing thing for him.
Yeah, me too.
I can relate.
Okay. I can relate to that.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, it was. I completely terrified, and like to the point. I remember.
Now, what? Real quick, what were the building blocks and jobs to get to,
bro?
That executive director that you.
Yeah. So I started when I was going through that court stuff we were talking about. Like I couldn't work a full-time job. I had so many court commitments all over King County, Tukwila, Issaquah, downtown, DOC, short, like you name it. You know what I mean? Having to check in. I had to take odd jobs. Like I was working for this dude and like pulling weeds, picking up, like like one of the things I legit had to do, and I just talked about this with somebody else. Like I had to pick up dog shit. Like that was a job that I had to take, and I have a gag reflex. And this woman had like German Shepherds. They were like show dogs. He dropped me off and be like, look, you got to go clean this yard. And I would think about that prayer I did. You know what I mean? I'm like, I said, I do anything. Like I'm dry heaving. You know what I'm saying? But like it was slow, bro. And like, then I took a job painting. And I took a job doing this. And then I finally got what I thought was like this big boy job. It was at a NOC, a Network Operations Center. And they gave me an offer letter. And I quit the painting job. I was really excited about it. And the day before I was supposed to start, they called me and said, hey, we realized we gave you the offer letter, but we just can't take a shot on you. We can't have somebody that's violent working here. And I'm like, man, I'm not, like, I don't think I'm violent, but my record says otherwise, right? So that was, all this was like a learning experience. What happened though is, man, prayer, meditation, intentionality. I had started seeing people that I was locked up with around, and they were doing real good, and they were living in these houses. This woman had a construction company. The construction company was Square Peg Construction. She was employing people that had been released from prison, and that were in recovery from substance use disorder. And she didn't know it. And then she fell in love with them when she found out their stories. And then she found out the barriers people face. And she's from Edmonds, and she's a mentor to me and a dear friend. And I'm sure both of you experienced somebody seeing something in you that you didn't even see in yourselves. Mm-hmm. And she was that woman for me. So I saw them, they're doing good, they're working at this construction company. So I'm like one of my best friends in recovery had recently passed away from an overdose. So I was like, I wanted to really do something that was right in my heart. And so I was like, man, I'm gonna go work at this construction company. So I did that. And it was, they had me roofing, which like, I'm not a good roofer. You know, there's, I promise you there's houses with leaking roofs in this city right now because I had that job. You know what I'm saying? So like, Shout
out to those people, man. It's summertime coming up. It's summertime.
It's all good. No, it's a joke. But you know what I mean? Like I was just not that. I shouldn't have been doing that. Anyway, they believed in me.
Edit that out, Pete.
So probably. So what she was doing though is she was taking these vacant homes, right? So at any given time in like 2017, there was like 500 vacant homes throughout Seattle proper. So those houses, it's very much part of gentrification in the city. Like Baltimore's got boarded up houses because no one lives in them. For us, it was like developers are buying up these properties in like the Central District and stuff and turn them into row houses. Mm-hmm. So the permitting process was hella long. So the city of Seattle would essentially, board them up, and she saw an opportunity to like house her people there. And protect the house. So she founded a nonprofit, a 501c3. That's where I'm executive director now. But what happened was my girl got pregnant, and I had my eyes on like a treatment center job, something like that, like helping people get sober. And I went in to tell her, that my future wife was pregnant and I was going to leave. And she goes, she's like, you're not in here to leave, are you? She'd been trying to hire an ED for like a year, and I'm like, yeah. And she's like, that you're not, because you're supposed to run, this organization. And at that time, like, I didn't know anything about the nonprofit sector, of course, but it wasn't the sure bet, you know what I'm saying? And I had to really take it back to my people and pray and, do all the things around it. It was small. Mm-hmm. It was just me. Maybe 14 people being served at the time. But the realization I came to was like, do I want to help people that have access to resources, or do I want to help people like myself that maybe no? You know what I mean? So I ended up going and accepting that job, and that's how that came to fruition. And then I worked my ass off, like just straight up, like worked my ass off. And like our people are dying in the streets. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I worked really hard. So today, Weld Seattle, so we provide comprehensive support for people reentering community from incarceration. That looks like housing, jobs, workforce development, training, financial literacy, digital literacy. We got clinical case management. Like we got all the things somebody's going to need to be successful. when I got out of, jail that last time, I'm trying to access resources from all over the state. And like, I can't work, got to pay rent, got to find a place to live. we're putting it in one house, you know what I'm saying, for people to access. And then I think I learned through recovery too, like what's our dilemma? It's lack of power, right? So like I am gonna go and I'm gonna access power. So I'm not afraid to ask for help. So, we went from, just me, and then we hired Jody Bardicke is the director of housing now. Carolyn Presnell is the director of reentry. Kareem Brantley is our director of operations. I mean, there's a lot. There's like 30 full-time employees, not including the employment social enterprise. We house probably on average about 120 people, you know what I'm saying, a night. We have a month of classes where people can come make money for, taking essential classes and learning how to navigate barriers to successfully re-enter community. So it's like really we're creating what needed to be there for us that wasn't there for us. So I would say
It's so filthy.
Yeah, man. First of all, I just want to pause. And I just want to when you share what you just shared to a person like myself, when, I didn't have a background, I didn't get sober and come out of prison or jail, and that wasn't my story.
Yeah.
But I've always known that there are people out there that when they do come out of prison, that they struggle with getting jobs, getting, housing,
all the things,
things, right?
Yeah.
And so then it's always been a vision, right? Of like, well, how are we going to get society to help these individuals? Yeah. And here comes Weld that I had, I think Carolyn was the first one to talk to me about it.
Yeah.
And what she did, and then that's when I met you through Kenny at the Down and Out, I believe. And so,
well, you need to come visit.
That's a fact.
We'll have you at a graduation.
I need to.
Yeah, you got to come. I mean, I'm blessed beyond measure. I'm overpaid. I get to I was joking when I came in tonight, like how tired I was, but truthfully, like the tiredness I feel today is like it's like a good tired. It's like my life is full. I have these dope things and I do dope shit. I was tired before, like I want to die. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just not comparable. Like my life is really full today, and the work, man. Like I said, like our people are dying. Like to your point, if you go to the private sector, you know this. Like you see it at work. I'm sure. Like in the private sector, if you're in a treatment center, they're gonna say, okay, you've been in treatment, you did all the stuff, but like this isn't really the work. And like if you want to stay sober, you probably need to go to sober living. It's exponentially going to increase your probability of staying sober and staying on a good trajectory.
Yes.
What we also know is that like prison, jail, institutions are a form of intervention for people that lack resources or outright refuse them.
Yeah.
But we just kick them loose. There's no like, we're going to help you find a sober living or a house or any of that. You know what I mean?
There's no one day in Nexus.
Yeah. None of that.
Yeah, you're not getting we're gonna bye.
You get a property box oftentimes and a bus pass, and like check in within 24 hours, or you're gonna get violated. Like that's a story we commonly hear.
How did see, to me that's just insane to me. Like how can you succeed in that? Like you really gotta.
You can't. Well, I like it a lot. It's filthy because you're making it realistic for people. You know what I mean? Like that's what I see so much. And like even I think about it for myself is like how like back when I was really getting it before treatment, like would this even be realistic? Like is this lifestyle realistic for me? So that's like something so filthy that I love about Will.
Appreciate y'all. So 95% of the people incarcerated today will be released into society. That can go as high as like 98% at times, right? Depending on like who's in office and who's dictating terms about like who's in prison. So it really is a question of like what kind of neighbors we want. And like, so I talk about this a lot, but like our capacity to foster stories of redemption is an actual reflection of our collective welfare. So that is the work. Like we're talking about having safer communities for everyone and access to equitable opportunity. And so we use AI, which is filthy. Like you can build somebody's like treatment plan, reentry plan, resume, like all that. Like there's a lot you can do with what's available, but people don't have access to it. So one of the things we do is like we give people computers when they're done with the class. Like so they're not just learning how to use it, but they'll actually be able to take it home and use it to like hopefully, you know, do what they want to do with themselves. So it's been a great honor. And also like the team we have, you know, they challenge me. Most of them are smarter than me. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not the most eloquent executive director in the world, but what my North Star is to empower others. Yeah. And that's really my whole thing. Like, I just want to see other people succeed, build the stage, not stand on it. Like, that's really what I'm about. You know what I mean? And that goes for everyone I work with. You know, I want to see everyone at Weld in leadership positions someday, like giving back to community. The thing I'm most proud of about Weld, probably, I got a cat, like Bishop came through, did 22 years, maybe 20 years in the joint. He's running an organization now. He's working with law enforcement, holding court with law enforcement about interactions with like the young community, the Black community, like building a safer community, trust, rapport. Elise is a former member. She runs bridges. You know what I'm saying? Jason Vickers is a former member. He's giving back to the Native community as an elder now. So it's not just about like, we want people to come through and flourish, but also it's like creating leaders that give back to the community and having that ripple effect. And like that really speaks to my heart, like more than anything else. Because I think everybody is capable of being a leader in their own right. Like no one pegged me to be, like for real, like this is a plot twist. Like no one pegged me for doing this, you know what I'm saying? But I do think each and every person is capable. If you find, and I'll go back because your question was good about how I ended up here. Like that 4 years, I was terrified. I went, there was, you know, Damon Conklin, Rory, Chris G. Like there was a few people like I went and talked to. I was like, how did you get where you're at? Because I really respect them. They're killing it in all their professions. Like, and I just talked to Rory about this actually recently. Like, I was like real scared. I was like, what did you do exactly to get where you're at? And one, like, I was a little disappointed because I learned there's no secret sauce. They all work their asses off to get where they're at. Right. But the second part was that I learned from them, and I think this goes for everyone in recovery, is like they all found something that they did professionally that they did with their whole hearts and completely encompassed the individuals they are as men, and it allowed them to flourish. So the money followed. So they weren't just chasing the bag. Right. It was like the bag came to them because they were doing what they love to do, and they're really good at doing what they do. Yeah.
So my mom had that theory for me as a kid. Yeah. Like that was one of the things that she instilled in me. It was like, yeah, man, you know, do what you love, and the money will follow. Yeah, it's beautiful. And like, I always like, I was a very like, I challenged that often. And then I realized like, oh yeah, like, see, I got sober and then I kind of let go of like this financial insecurity. Like I did some work, and then all of a sudden it's like, man, it's not my money, it's God's money. It's like, so then it's this giving. I am not gonna live in this like pinch and pennies lifestyle. Yeah. And, you know, I think we all at this table share this like eloquent concept of like, we want to see all the people that we are around succeed. Yeah. You know, and so absolutely. Like, what does that look like, right? And so, you know, I've learned through being where I come from, like, I thought it was like keeping my own bag tight and like, you know, look at me, I got the money, I got this, and I got power, prestige, all the, this is me. And what ended up happening was like, it's this subtle shift of the opposite, which is like giving it away. And like, and the scariest part of that is when you let it go and you're like, I don't know, brother. Yeah. I don't know if this is come on, man. Like for real, you gotta be joking here, right? Yeah. And what's exciting is when you do it and then it's like a light bulb. It's the sunlight of the spirit, right? You're getting this like, and so for me, I'm hooked on that. It sounds like you're hooked on it.
Yeah, you're talking about an abundance mindset.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And like, yeah, I'm big on that. I had this cat tell me early on, and you know, this wasn't like a linear path for me. I remember I had like 3 years sober and I stole a steak from QFC.
Come on.
You know what I'm saying? Like the big ass steak.
Hey,
I mean QFC on the hill, and I'm
come on.
man, they got so much steak. I got no steak. I really like a steak.
I
you
need
know,
some
and
steak.
I ended up having to go back and making amends and like all that stuff. So it's not like it's linear. But this cat told me, he's like, I was talking to him about money, and he's like, how much money is enough, Patrick? And I was like, man, I don't know. I started doing calculations in my head, and he's like, you want enough money so you don't have to trust God. And I was like, oof. Yeah, man. And like also, you know, I realized like at this point in my career, I make a living, like I'm doing good. So if you're broke out there listening, like I understand where you're at too. But what I would tell you is you will get there if you stay true to yourself and you work hard. And that's just been the truth. And that abundance mindset you're talking about is 100% true. I could tell you 1,000 stories on why that is absolutely true. Yeah.
So, you know, where you work and all these beautiful things that you have, are there struggles today that you deal with that you'd like to share? Just because, like, you know, interestingly enough, like, the steak. You know, like, you know, I'm 3.5 years old, I steal a steak. Hey, look, we're not, saints out here. Mm-hmm. And so what are some things that you struggle with today? And
I think one of the big things that I've been talking pretty openly about is like, you know, when I got sober, at least, like, my ambitions weren't to do everything I'm doing. You know what I mean? And like, I got a lot of responsibility today. Yeah. So it's just, sometimes I'm like, man, it's like, woof. But we talk about that at Well, too. It's like, if you show up with high character, impeccably, you know, the responsibility is going to come to you. But I do think, like, there's a level of responsibility that I have that if I don't bring God into it, like, I'm going to drop the ball. So I think that that's something that I have to constantly remind myself. Like, I'm a father, I'm an executive director, there's a budget, there's a comprehensive, you know, capital campaign we're after. We're raising millions and millions of dollars. I want to tell you that story before I go to.
Please do. It was gonna get brought up how many millions of dollars that you're trying to go get.
Yo, I appreciate that. But I think that's one. And you know, just the human experience, right? Like, the hardest person to forgive through everything, you know, that happened was myself. You know what I mean? And I've come to a place where I feel like I have, but you have to stay active in the work, you know what I mean? Like, I just got a new therapist. Like, I hadn't been to therapy in a while. Like, I think I can get calloused. I can get, like, at my best, like, my heart is soft. I pray for that in the morning. Like, please soften my heart. Let me be close to the people I interact with and all that. But it's a daily struggle because of the level of responsibility that, like, we get in our lives, you know what I mean? To not just kind of, like, move through life. Mm-hmm. I crave connection. I crave intimacy. And I forget that. And then I go to bed at night and I'm just real tired. So I'd say that's one. And then, of course, being a good father. Like I'm a good father, but I could always be a better father. I could always be a better husband. You know, those are the things that I really challenge myself on, I think.
You know, we don't often talk about fathers on here, but it's, you know, your daughter's 7 years old. My son's 7.
Yeah.
You know, some of the challenges I face as a father have been just like not carrying the learned behaviors from when I was a kid of that type of parenting to my son today. And we had this moment, so I coach his baseball team. Yeah. And he's pretty talented at 7 years old. He's pretty talented at baseball. And so we're playing this game called pickle, and he's running from base to base, and he gets tagged out by one of the other coaches. He believes it's tie goes to the runner, which it was, but the coach called him out. Yeah. So he's pissed, and he's coming back to the middle of the diamond, and he's looking at me like, nah, man, like I was safe. Mm-hmm. It was tie goes to the runner. And I'm like, hey, man, just respect the coach, man. Come on, man. And so then he's pissed, and he's in the middle, and he's having his big feelings. And other kids are kind of looking at him all funny. And then what ends up happening is he gets back on the bases, and we're playing again, and a different coach calls him out. Yeah. And he was safe. I saw him. He was safe, and the coach was challenging him to see how he would behave. Yeah. And I'm talking about he loses it. He loses it. He gets to the middle. I wasn't out. Snot's coming out of his nose, and he's crying. All the other players are like, whoa, dude, like, why is he? I've never seen him like this before. And I swear to you, we ended practice right there, like, all right, Astros on 3, and that's a whole other story. Astros on 3, boom, and they go, and then I bring my son in. I say, hey, man, looking. And he's crying out, what? It's going to bring me to tears. I was not out. And I said, listen, I know you weren't out. I saw it. I love you. It's okay. Like, and we just stayed on that field for the next 15 minutes while the whole team left.
Yeah.
And we just stayed there and we talked, and I held him and he cried and I cried. And it was this moment of like, when I walked away from that, I was very clear with myself that I had never been treated like that ever by my father.
I love it.
And so, what are some of the things that, you as a father get to enjoy and like, highlights or even challenges?
Thank you for sharing that story, man, and I love you. I'm a girl dad, right?
Right.
Like so my obviously my dad didn't. I was kind of a troubled kid a little bit, but I think from that regard, it's kind of different. Just in how I interact with my daughter. What I will say, like, what I pride myself in being with my daughter is a safe space more than anything else. And like my wife, like we talked about ADHD, all the energy in the world, ripping, running, playing, and I'll play with her, but not to the extent my wife does. She's also like, younger than me, and I'm at work, whatever. So like, girls play different. It's not baseball. You know what I mean? It's like, do you want to imagine dragons playing in the forest and sprinkled unicorns? And I'm just like, huh? But showing up is that like safe, loving, kind space. And one thing that I think, my parents did the best they could, but I didn't have boundaries. You know what I mean? And like, I do think boundaries are one of the kindest things you can give people. Like if you don't know when you cross the line, you're just going to perpetually cross the line and maybe go too far. So I want to provide all those things. You know what I'm saying? And my life with especially Kennedy, who's 7, I've learned more about women in her first year of life than I ever learned in the previous 38 years I was alive. It has been such a healing experience for me as somebody that just to be real, like, I didn't trust women. Like I had a very complicated relationship with women for a long time, and through this process of healing, like it's completely changed. And then having daughters, like it's like totally different. And now I'm just surrounded by like really strong, powerful women, like the founder, Carolyn, my director of development, my wife, my daughters, and then I moved my mom in. I don't know, like. My mom lives with me. I just finished the basement. She was in Arkansas, bro. I went down and picked her up, and that's another miracle of recovery. Like our relationship was pretty estranged for some time. You know what I mean? Last year, I went and picked her up and moved her in, so she's living there. So I would say, just all in all,
it's a lot of women.
So many women, bro,
and girls. I'm just
so many women. I'm surrounded.
Yeah. See, that's one of the things. Like I always, I got a lot of friends that like are girl dads.
Yeah.
And like, there's part of me that just, it gets excited to hear just like that other side of the creative part or the like,
so creative.
Yeah.
So creative.
Yeah. And like,
it's wild to me. But yeah, it's just different. It's a completely different experience. You know what I mean? And yeah, I love it. And like, I can't be for sure, but I think like the way in which I love my daughter is probably different than how I would love a son. Like I would love my son fully with a whole heart, but there's this level of like, that's my little girl. You know what I mean? Like I will shoot up you know what I like? I would just like
do a lot.
You do a lot.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like this is just my people. But like God bless my 7-year-old. Like she looks just like me, acts just like her mom. And like if you see her mom, it's like I feel bad for her. I'm like, I'm sorry I did you like this. Running around with my face. Mom is like this beautiful girl, but she's she's the best, man. So I'd say that stuff, just and being consistent with it, right? Like what you did, the story you just told is perfect. It's like just being consistent with that. Those are the moments you remember.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm not. you know, there's these moments too that are just, I look back on and I'm like, damn, man, like, you know, yeah, it's not always I'm not always as kind as I want to be to my son. I talk to him sometimes very, like, we argue a lot. He likes to argue, and I tend to like almost argue as if like we're adults in a way, and it's intense because he's like pretty good at it. And he's pretty fucking good.
I'm not shocked by that at all.
He's pretty good at it. I'm like, damn, dog. Like
that shows up between my wife and my daughter. Like I'm going to be referee.
Yeah,
there's no question. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's just I like if I'm just really glad I got to be a father, and I thought that ship sailed. I like me getting sober. A big part of it was like, I wanted those things, you know. I wanted to be a better son. I wanted to be a father someday. But I got sober. I was 34. You know what I mean? I was like 35 by the time I got out of jail, maybe 36 and all that stuff. So I had thought that ship had sailed, and I'm going to be forever grateful. Like regardless of the professional work I do, like that's my legacy. You know, that's your legacy.
Yeah,
like that's it. That's all really that matters at the end of the day. And like I meet really, I mean, like people that got the kind of money they got to agree to give away because people can get mad if they don't, and they say the same thing. Like it's all about their kids.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's like none of that other stuff really matters, and I think we all have that in common. You know what I mean?
100%.
Yeah, we're gonna keep chopping it up though about fatherhood.
Yeah, for sure.
We have to.
Yeah. And so, last but not least, like, you know, are you? What would be something that you wanted to share with the audience out there that?
Well, so you brought. I wanted to tell a story because I forget what tipped me off to it, but these full circle moments. So, and there's a couple, but this one in particular, I think is a good story. Like I have met the face of God in these moments that have proven to me, like really. Like what it looks like to be on the right path. You know what I'm saying? So 2011, I'm terrorizing people, like I said. I walk into a courtroom. At this point, like everyone knows me in court. Bailiff knows me. Patrick, here again. I'm here again. And I see somebody I had grown up with that we had issues. So I was out of my mind, like up for days. I had taken one of those little Chrysler, like toaster box oven cars, and I managed to park in like 4 stalls, you know, in front of the county or in front of the courthouse. Anyway, I attacked this dude in the courthouse, right? So
you attack him in the courthouse?
In the courthouse,
oh,
in the metal detector, like I swing right. I'm throwing keys. It's a mess. So the bailiff is like, Patrick, I don't want to tase you, you know, all that. Wake up. I'm in Snohomish County Jail. I'm in a suicide vest. I can't remember what happened. I think I killed someone. I'm like, okay, this is it. I'm not getting out. You know, this is the time I'm not gonna get out. Butt naked, suicide schlock. I'm just sitting there and got brought back into court a few days later. You know, and I'm learning slowly, kind of coming out of the gray out, like exactly what happened. He's a violent offender. We can't let him out. He's gonna kill someone, rightfully so. So all this goes out on. This is actually how I managed to finally like get off the Suboxone completely too, because I was in there for some time. If I wasn't using, I was on that back and forth. So I was sitting there for a long time. Ended up getting out, and last year. So we're raising money at Weld Seattle, comprehensive capital campaign. Our people are dying in the streets. I'm actively trying to convince the public sector to invest in sober living because right now people don't have a choice. Yeah. It's housing first. Sometimes those places can be very unsavory for people who suffer from substance use disorder. People are actively using in them. So I'm out there advocating for our people trying to get investment on a sober living. I'm talking to the King County Council members, Gourmet, Mosqueda, you know, all the people, right? I give a patch and pitch. We end up getting awarded $3 million towards the comprehensive campaign. We're raising $26 million towards this campaign. Turn around. The bailiff, right? Same guy. Fucking 11 years later. You know what I'm saying? He goes, I ain't seen him once. He's like, Patrick Arni. I was like, you remember me. He goes, do I remember you? We had a meeting last week on what to do if somebody freaks out in a courtroom, and I brought you up. And I'm just like, what? So we have this conversation. And he said to me, this is the thing I want people to really hear this, that maybe still suffering and all that. He looked at me and he said, hey, Patrick, I always knew you were a good person. And that hit me. It's like, oof. Because you know what? When I woke up in that suicide vest, the last thing I felt like was a good person. Yeah, so, you know, full circle moments, the face of God. Clearly we're on the right trajectory. And, you know, like the council members came through, we're opening up a house in the, you know, in the U districts, and we fire, save a lot of lives, you know what I'm saying? And I'll tell you like something off air about that house actually, but yeah, it's gonna be a beautiful thing. And those are the full circle moments that kind of happen if you do this long enough. And I would just say, like, to the listener, you know, none of this, for me, like, my story is still just getting started. I'm just a baby in this. I'll have 12 years on August 1st. But my experience has been, it just gets better and better. And you're gonna run through some hard spots and some trials, and all those things are gonna happen. But like, on a macro scale, like, it's just gotten better for me as I stay true to the work.
Yeah, man. You gotta keep the main thing the main thing.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Aiden, anything from you over here?
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Pat. I really appreciate you coming and sharing your story. I think, you know, I'm going on 3 years sober right now. And steak, man. I like steak a lot too at 3 years sober. But no, I through this journey and like my own path, I've heard like a lot about you, and people that I'm really close to talk about you in like a really significant way. And I just kind of watch you from afar, you know, and hear about you, and I appreciate you and kind of look up to you, you know what I mean? It's like, it's amazing to see people doing it for the right reasons, like doing what we're doing for the right reasons, because sometimes it can get misconstrued, I think, and it's amazing to see what you're doing, you know what I mean? And
appreciate you. So I love you, bro. I mean, straight up. Like, we're gonna break bread together and have conversation together. And also, like, I'm in that season of got a baby at home, so I don't, you know what I mean? It's just like, but me and you just need to keep in contact so we can go do something and have a conversation around.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I'm saying? I'm always here for you. And
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's like he's an up and coming cat. Aiden's an up and coming cat, and it's like when you look at what you're doing, it's almost like this is. If he were to look at his future that way, he wouldn't mind being right exactly where you're at. And so it's, you know.
I got to steal a couple steaks first.
Yeah. Hey, we get to buy them today, man. It's cool. They're on me, man. Don't worry.
When I went in to make that amends, there was a naked dude running through the store. Like, Jesus. And like, I was like, man, can I speak to the manager? And he looked at me and he's like, what? Somebody's running, like there's people chasing him. Looked like the Naked Gun in there or something, like there's some comedy movie. And I'm like, I stole a steak. And he's like, and? And I'm like, and I'm going to end up just like that dude if I keep doing it. So I needed to tell you.
Yeah, it's funny you say, though, because like a lot of people don't understand like what amends look like after the fact in those situations. Yeah. And those are something that people are shocked when you share that, you know, that are not in, let's say, a 12-step program. They're like, wait, why would you go there and do that? There's no reason for you to do that. You're going to get arrested. There's things happening that are going to happen to you that are really bad.
This is when I called my my mentor, sponsor, like told him what I did. He goes, you stole a steak? Of course you did, you godless heathen. This is what you look like when you don't have God in your heart.
That's great.
Like, hey, man, because if you ain't going to laugh about it, like, what are you going to do? Like, you're going to feel real funky.
Yeah, he was like, you're going to go back in there and make amends. I'm like, Yeah, that's what we do, man. We hold ourselves accountable and each other accountable. Yeah, that's what's up.
You know, let's just get so real, man. I got to do something. I got to say something that, so it was about 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. Might have shared one time, but I really got to do the amends on this one. So I was at Home Depot. Shout out to Home Depot. And, you know, these expensive air conditioner units, like, you know, you can self-scan. You got the little scanner, and you go, beep, beep, beep. And I just buy it, you know, I just missed one. I miss the air conditioner unit. So I got to get out to Home Depot here down in South Center and
Home Depot's
let them know, man. I think they're running about $250, so I got to be ready to pay that one back.
My experience has been like thank you for sharing that and having the courage to do so. But also it's cumulative. You know what I mean? Like it adds up. Like it's like I heard this cat. Like this would be the last thing I say. Like so I had about 4 months sober, and I was really struggling. I was going through all the court stuff, and it was like 2013 was a really, really cold winter. I don't know if you remember the year the Seahawks won the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
it was freezing. Like, and I couldn't drive, so I was catching buses to meetings, and I'm like, yo, this is whack. I don't know if I'm gonna stick to this. I might just go back into what I'm good at. And I heard this guy share at a meeting. He said two things. First thing he said is, he's like, if you stick around the rooms of alcoholics, or
it's okay.
If you stick around the rooms, like he said, the skeletons in your closet will become the strongest soldiers in your army. I'm like, yeah, I like skeletons, bro. Let's go. And then he said, yeah, this other thing he was talking about. He used to eat ice cream in the back of the joint, and he's like, you always see me eating ice cream. I know you guys see me eating my ice cream every Sunday. And he's like, but the thing about my ice cream, and this is a really weird analogy, like if forgive me in advance for saying this out loud, but he was like, if there was shit in this ice cream, even a small piece of fecal matter, he's like, I wouldn't eat the ice cream. The ice cream is tainted. He's like, it could be over here, and I know there's a good bite here, but I can't fuck with it. It's like, this is a ruined piece of ice cream. And he was making the point, like if we start letting that stuff in, it's just gonna fuck with us all together. Like the whole thing's ruined, you know what I'm saying? And I really felt that, because I've had those things that where like it's a small thing, but it's a rock in my shoe. Like you know what I mean? Like, so shout out to Home Depot.
Shout out to Home Depot. I'm coming to you give me a week or so. Talk to my main man, and we'll get a plan together. Yeah. Well, man, episode 19 has been epic, Pat.
Yes,
I appreciate you, man. I love you, man. And we appreciate you, Fredo. Thanks for everything you do back there. And, Color Studios, Mondo, Pioneer Square, man. We're trying to heal out here and create a safe environment, as safe as we can get it. Anyway, Sober Champs out, man.
Sober Champs.
Thanks.
Thank you.